Julien Loki. The 17-year-old French Godspeed prodigy is the pro we have the most information on. Dictator Loki debuted by backhanding Gabriel from backslapping Hugo, and declared at 13 years old he finally win the World Cup a few times, so if you can't keep up with his dream, get to stepping. Let's look at his philosophy. So at first he comes off as a nice person as he stops Luna from further insulting the Japanese footballers. And because the Bluelockers are beneath him, he is very composed about this. He is composed and kind, not because he is purely a nice guy, but because he is confident in the environment around him. Take for instance in Bleach with Basby and Jugram. Basby takes him as an apprentice as he wants the two of them to take down Yuha together. Because Jugram was seemingly weaker than Bazard B, it led him to be really kind and comfortable around him until it was revealed he wasn't stronger than Jugram, and it was the reverse, and Jugram got chosen over him. Now this isn't entirely the same thing as Loki, but the main point is you can really be confident with small fry, but when the small fry becomes big competition, you won't act the same way around them. And Loki is the type to use his God-given speed, talent to surpass those with any chance of beating him in terms of the visual spatial awareness aspect, as Rin saw through his plan, but because Loki is a cheat code, he can just rush through that problem literally. Now in episode Nagi, Loki doesn't contribute to anything in the game for chapter 33. Not even reacting when Chigri gets hurt, unlike the other pros. The only thing he does is blaze Luna, seemingly the only narratively built character who is above Loki at the point in the story, which was quickly debunked later in the coming chapter. The worst part is when Nagi asks the pros about their egos, Loki also doesn't contribute to that in chapter 33. But when Nagi seemingly is about to prove himself to the World 5 after bullying the adults, Loki has to put in a bit of effort to put Nagi back in his place. Once again, in the second match, he uses his speed to counteract his flaws, just like against Rin. If he wasn't born with speed, he would be fried. And we get confirmation that similar to Nagi, who used his talents to get by everything in his Bluelock journey without being afraid, till the very end of his campaign when it came to losing Rail. Loki, too, because he is naturally gifted, has nothing to fear. But thanks to Isagi's trash talk, which we will get into very shortly, there is a chance we will see Loki find fear in the Adult World Cup, or Senior World Cup, whatever you want to call it. He, again, is only comfortable with his own teammates because he views them to be inferior to him, as very stated in the episode Nagi manga. The last thing we get from Loki acknowledging that he and Nagi are similar with a devastating last line, "When you learn fear, it will destroy you." Now in the NEL, we don't see Loki have an influence in the story until chapter 244, or most importantly, chapter 246. But let's start with chapter 244, where we see he has benched Shido, and then after Rin scores, he is subbed on. Now this would make sense in the reader's mind, as even Ego knew that the two of them in the same lineup would be a disaster. However, Loki's reasoning to this is definitely not that. He doesn't even mind the two of them playing together. It's just he wants to have them separated to see which style would fit Charles better. As we saw the two of them team up against Uber, so it meant that Loki wasn't having that same issue Ego did. It was more of a Charles trying to figure out which system worked for him better. So Loki does two systems, Wins and Cheetos, for the purpose of developing Charles to become a midfielder who can help Loki become the world's best striker. He is also very good with dealing with contrarians with a cool head. Considering he has probably dealt with Charles a lot, it means he has a cool-headed perception on how to deal with people like him. Being the genius and just like Nagi, not afraid of everything, he throws away the logical 15-minute interval lineup for an irrational perverse lineup with all the devils on one lineup. Throughout all the failed lineups and his team losing a championship game, he remains cool-headed as he is locked in on seeing Charles grow even more. This was very shown in chapter 267 or 268, the chapter where everyone in PXG is saying they are screwed, they might lose this game, and Loki really doesn't care as long as Charles develops even more. And I want to talk about the relationship between Loki and Rin in this match. Loki thought of Rin as just one smart-ass bug he could crush, and now he has revised his opinion of Rin from low tier to an entertaining striker. And now people would have a problem with Loki's time on the pitch, as he never once linked up with Charles. And trust me, I'm people too. But after reviewing the match as a whole, this is actually a good thing. That makes total sense. Although, yes, Loki needs Charles to be the best midfielder, he doesn't need him yet. Keep in mind, Loki 99% won't play, as in the third selection, it's stated in chapter 88 that Loki is already representing France, like his real-life counterpart Kylian Mbappe. So why would Loki want to give himself more work by representing the U20 team when he is already on the main team? It feels like demoting yourself. So with that set in stone and knowing Loki's carefree nature, he has about 3.5 years for Charles to be ready to make him the world's best striker. So he is in no rush to use Charles as of yet. Another thing is, Charles is still immature. The running theory I had around this time was that Charles would refuse to pass to Loki when the game was ongoing, due to his contrarian nature, and Loki wouldn't be able to tame Charles in 3 minutes. Even though he did it off the pitch, things are different when on it. Just look at Isagi's personality on the pitch versus off the pitch. And lastly, the reason why Loki only paired up with Rin in this match is because Rin just had an explosive turn of events with his destroyer mode to the point where he made Charles evolve, and Loki thanks him for that. So he directly states thanks to Rin, and that he made Loki want to play as well. Not Charles, not Cheeto. Rin is the reason why Loki steps on the pitch. So obviously Loki will want to play with this monster, the new star, as indicated in chapter 284. He doesn't need to score any goals, as this isn't the World 5 match where each goal got you an incentive of $10,000. So there was no need to be serious at all about this. So he just kept getting the ball to win for him to score. Before we get into Loki's disappointment in Japan, we actually get Loki's viewpoint of life in chapter 277, when he dispossesses Isagi and says the slow ones die first. That's just the nature of the law. There was no other sentence that could encapsulate Loki more than that phrase. As throughout this whole story, he has been the fastest, so of course to him, everyone else is slow. He is basically the king of the jungle, who can pass judgment to just about anyone, especially talented learners such as Isagi. This is why Loki changing his viewpoint about Rin makes complete sense, as in the third selection, Rin's playstyle was based off of his older brother, Saitoshi, who is a talented learner. So that means Rin was playing like a talented learner when he first met Loki, but now he is playing like the genius who he truly is, which intrigues Loki. Throughout his time on the pitch, he served up 2 potential assists, hoping for Rin to become the new star, but Rin failed to capitalize on those 2 crucial chances because of his monster instincts. Loki, being the supposed king of the jungle, feels his time was just wasted and is visibly upset Rin, the best striker in Japan, couldn't score off of his pass, which meant if Rin, the supposed best striker in Japan, couldn't get the job done off of Loki's pass, who could? That's the philosophy side of him. Now let's talk about his skill set. The first one is obviously his high speed acceleration to get to any point of the pitch he wants to instantly. We see him use this on defense against Nagi and Isagi. On offense, we see him use his first step Godspeed boost against the Bluelock 5. The latest version of his move being God Warp. This is when he uses a singular stride to get past multiple opponents in one blow. He did this against Raichi and Hiyori. Nutmeg pass. He uses this to get the ball to Rin in chapter 282 by passing the ball through Raichi's legs. Man, Raichi really got done dirty twice by Loki. Spatial awareness. Loki in the third selection says Isagi has multiple blind spots, which meant he is an intelligent speedster who knows how to use his speed when on the pitch, unlike Zantetsu. And when he is passing the ball to Rin in chapter 282, he puts it in a position where Rin has space to avoid Ikaguri from flopping again. So continuing on from the NEL, he is featuring in Group A of the FIFA 2019 U20 World Cup. Loki plays against England, where he dribbles through Damon and Busby, where he shoots an outside the box shot to score a brace against England in a supposedly tough 2-1 game. In the game versus Japan, he is such a dominant force where he baits Japan's whole back line to try and jump him, but he was bait for Charles to score. Whenever enemies like Rin or Isagi tried to get past Loki, he was always on their tail thanks to his instincts also helping him offensively to try and score in chapter 340, but Kunigami jumped in later. And even when he was chasing his freaky student, we used Shido as he used his proper positioning to get there and then used his speed to catch up. And his tackling speed is insane too, as he nearly got the tackle on Hiyori but did land it on Otoya's shot. He was able to dribble past Hiyori and Isagi switching feet at max. That's pretty good ball control, and he also does it again in chapter 347. And then he held off Chigiri from getting the ball from him with his superior strength. He isn't top 10 strongest, but still strong enough to do that. It showed Loki can run 23 miles per hour and chase Hugo's pass at 28 feet per second. And he unleashes Predator Eye to score a goal, and yes, he was in flow state here as you can see all the crystals in his eyes, which means he was really hyped up to score the goal as he indicated in chapter 337 and 339. So this doesn't mean he was desperately going all out because he wasn't struggling in this game. This was just a case where he needed to reach full speed to reach that pass to score a super goal. And for his inverted eyes, these eyes are typically shown when someone is banking everything on a shot or explained by Ace Lock breaking through on a shot. And Loki is kind of a mixture of both. He uses it while sometimes not breaking through to score, but whenever he uses it, he is tracking something down and has to bank on a mini full acceleration like we always see it when he scores, which is the second part of Ace Lock's explanation. And this instant he got to Shido, if not for the fact that he did get to it, Shido would have scored. So he had to get to Shido in an instant, which is why he was banking everything on using his acceleration to get to Shido. And the only other time he enters this mode in the match is when he's trying to stop Hiyori from getting an assist or a goal, because if he didn't, they would have drawn and ruined his reputation, which is why we even get to see him use the crystals, because this was more of a disrespect to Loki, as if that did ruin his reputation, that would have been a bigger deal than the Shido thing. So he had to lock in even more to stop Hiyori in that sense. The final goal, he had to lock in because there was literally like less than 30 seconds or whatever, and Loki had to dribble through 6 players, catch the ball before Kunigami and Karasu just to dunk on IQ again and finish the game. So yeah, that was his most impressive feat we've seen, considering the fact that these are the strongest versions of the Blue Lockers we've seen him face. This is the most impressive feat we've seen from him. It wasn't really that he was struggling, he just momentarily had to lock in at certain times. So yeah, him yawning is excusable. And I already have explained for all 3 instances why he had to use the inverted eyes in this game. Now to talk about the fandom for those who say Loki is a speed merchant, yes sir, he is at least he does it successfully, unlike certain people like Usain Bolt. And he is also pretty good at dribbling with great ball control, great positioning, alongside great reactionary instincts. Lastly, he didn't have his best game, not because he was nerfed, but because Kaneshiro put him and Charles in the back burner for Hugo. So essentially, yeah, nerfing them. And the Blue Lockers had grown since the NEL, so he can't just dunk on them like he did in that arc in the first selection. Now I would have waited to talk about his game with Nigeria before making this video, but the way he was yawning after facing small fry Japan and the way Japan beat Nigeria, yeah, Loki might just sit that game out with his full arrogance showing. So we will have to wait until the next time I see him play, which I predict will actually be the quarterfinals, where we will see him face Italy and Lorenzo. I think this is going to be Italy's one showcase game in this game, where he's shown to have to face the strongest striker he's faced in the whole U20 division, being Loki. And considering the fact that we've never seen him go all out, even in the NEL, because this wasn't as serious as the U20 World Cup, because the U20 World Cup can make you more money than the NEL. So that means Lorenzo will have to give his full effort to try and stop Loki. And I think this will be the first game where Loki has to sweat or even struggle just a little bit and actually show a little bit of fear because of Lorenzo's insane defense. But Kaneshiro could just make Loki destroy Lorenzo and not really show the match. But Loki is still him. Don't disrespect the dictator. And until the next video, stay blessed. Suki out.